Hey everyone, Eggman here with another video, and today we have a prediction video slash discussion video for the new ban list for the Dragon Ball Super card game. We did have the World Finals this previous weekend, and the pre-release for the next set is this upcoming weekend, so I'm pretty sure we'll be actually getting it in the next couple of days if there is one, and I just want to do some predictions while we can still do that. So honestly, I think this meta is okay, and I also think a lot of things are going to change with the new set. Set 20 seems to be somewhat powerful in the cards and decks that you are allowed to play with. Like Android 21 looks like it's going to be pretty strong right out the gate, and Android 18 as well. So those are just two that are on my mind, but it's going to be a really interesting set in general. So I just want to talk about some thoughts on cards that might be hit. But honestly, I think this might be a scenario where we might not get a lot of cards in this next ban list. I don't expect a lot. I think the game's in actually a pretty good spot, all things considering. There are a lot of cards that might be a little bit overtuned, that maybe a limit or just kind of an errata might help fix it. But honestly, I'm not really arguing for a lot of them, but we're just going to kind of go on into it. And kind of the natural kind of segue for that is to talk about this leader. Obviously, it's been pretty much topping and or winning every event in the past little bit, but I think it's something that isn't as strong as people are saying. I think it's very popular. I think it's a very, very popular leader, and I think it's very strong for what it is, but I'm not sure 100% that it will continue to be that in this next set. Whether that means that another deck might just be straight up more powerful, which might be just even worse for it, but I think it's just really solid. I think that this is a deck that can just provide a lot of answers and a lot of good plays, and it's probably overtuned. I wouldn't say this deck is broken though, but I also wouldn't say it's fair. I think it's something that if you are a very strong player and you're able to adapt to plays, this has a lot of thinking that goes into it, but it also has a lot of plays, and there's a lot of windows for mistakes in this deck too, which I think is interesting. So if I was to do anything with this leader, I wouldn't ban it. I know it already got an errata, so to have a second errata might be a little bit silly. But if they don't like this leader still, something that they might do is they might make it so they are blue Saiyans only instead of just any color Saiyans. That might help you with the awakening stuff. I do think the errata to make it so you have to be at 4 or less life is a pretty big hit for the leader as well. I think we saw in the World's final event that did happen. And obviously it did have the most tops across the board, but it also means that this deck was very easy to counter, or at least find some ways to adapt and get around it. And that's what it is. It didn't even get top 2, right? It got 3rd place, and then obviously a lot of the top 8 was this as well, but I don't think it's a tier 0 deck in any ways. I think it's very strong though. I think it's very strong, and I don't know if it's more of blue itself, and we're going to go over a couple more blue cards as well to kind of go over it. But I think this leader, again, I don't think it's fair, but I think it's something that can lend itself to being, enabling a very, very powerful player. So if that's something that we don't want in this card game, that's something. But I think it the same way. Like, there's a lot of ways to build, play, interact with this leader, and I think it's very cool for that as well. So I don't know. I don't know if they're going to hit it. I don't think it's needed. 100%. I know a lot of people are tired about playing against Crimson, which could just be more of a customer satisfaction than instead of just a I don't know, like a balance change, but we'll have to see if they agree with that. Next up, Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta, Rise of the Super Warrior. This card's always been kind of overtuned, right? And with God Sealing going to 0, I think this card is just almost free to be played in any blue deck that likes to ramp. So obviously, Beerus uses this card very easily, and it's just hard to say if this is an overtuned card or something that just enables Beerus to be played, right? So Beerus did get a 4th place finish at Worlds. It's been doing moderately strong right now, and it's just it's a decision if this is just too good for what Blue wants to do. Being able to just ramp 4 seems a little silly in a lot of ways, or even just draw 4. 6 draw 4 on a 30k blocker that gets to restand at every turn is kind of silly in its own way, and the fact that it's so interactable. So I don't know if this card needs to be anything happen to it. If I was to do anything with it, I would just say instead of your leader is a mono blue card, if your leader is the SS4 Vegeta, I think that might make it a little bit better, but I'm not sure if that will make a difference for us, because obviously that deck wants to ramp as well, but it's just to a thing where Beerus just consistently gets ramps off of it, and I'm not sure if that's something that is unintentional, that they're wondering if it's too degenerate of a play, or if it's something that they're okay with. I don't know. It just seems like this card's a little overtuned for what it does, and maybe it gets eroded to just top 3 cards instead. I could see that too, instead of top 4 cards. That could make a difference. I'm not sure if they would want to change a number like that instead of anything else with it, but I think that's something that could happen too. So I don't know. I could see this card get hit. It's not something. Any of these cards, honestly, I'm going to just say, like, any of the cards in this list, I don't think I'd be actively arguing against, but I just want to mention them as something that I keep finding, like, there's just usual suspects for most of these decks that have been kind of overtuned in the last little bit. So next up, we have Majin Buu, Assault of the Age of Destructions. I think this has just been slightly getting worse and worse every set, so I think it's fine. I think it is a very strong unison. It's probably the best one in the game still. It's just all of its stats are good. Double strike blocker. You guys already have your opinion on this card. I don't think it's as broken as it was, and I used to be kind of championing like maybe something should be affecting this card. It should maybe go down to 1. Right now, I'm not really. I think it's something that used to be very good for what it is. I think we've kind of gone in around just how good this is, and there are ways for decks to deal with unisons a little bit easier than they used to, which is great as well. So I think it's fine. He's not, if my opponent has this on their side of the board, I'm still going to be kind of grumpy and upset about it because it's very hard to get rid of at other times, but it's fine for what it is. I'd be a little bit surprised, honestly, if they hit this, but I do know that this was a card of contention for a long time. It's almost been out for like 2 years now, if I remember right. So it's been out for a bit, and we'll see if anything, I don't think anything will, but I know it's just a big, ugly boss monster a lot of the time. Aandroidd 17 Defending Friends, probably the newest card on this entire list. I think this card was a mistake. I think this was not a card they should have released in this game. 100%. Like, this card is just obnoxious for a lot of reasons. A lot of reasons for this one. So first, generically, it's a 1-drop negate. Like, worst case, you just negate an attack, right? Which is just good enough in a lot of things so far. And it's a 5k combo. So, like, even like when these like battle card negates started coming in the game, like, they always were like, oh man, that's busted. Like, look how much value you get from this guy. 2, it's an Aandroidd. That's really good. It's really good that it's an Aandroidd. It's also Universe 7, which also, like, the tags for it are amazing for what it wants to do. It's a very, very strong card in that way. The fact that it's an Aandroidd 17, it's an Aandroidd and a Universe 7. All those are really great. They just lend to a lot of just searchable and findable and just ease of access for a lot of these decks. 3, the auto is limit 1. I do like that. However, the fact that you get to do a floodgate without having to commit anything, you get to negate an attack and make sure that you and get card advantage essentially without having to commit any additional resource. So the fact that it's just you have to have 3 more Z energy or have a Z battle card in play. Blue has a Z battle card for 2 that has barrier, the Beerus one. So, like, it's just very easy to have it chill out, and then you have Aandroidd 17, and then, like, the next turn you do the 2 and you get a lot of damage from the Beerus. So it's just very strong. And there's like no negative things about this card. It's just incredibly overtuned for what it is. It's a very, very good floodgate. Obviously, there are ways for you to negate this floodgate, but a lot of them are not very cheap for what it does. And it's just, I don't know, man. Like, you just have like no commitment for it. Just the fact that you get to, like, the fact that you have to play it in rest mode, that's like nothing. Again, just worst case, if it's just like a negate, you're good. But the fact that it floodgates and you don't have to like discard a card, or like if you had to do something like maybe like use Z energy to help pay for the cost for it or something too, that would maybe even it out. But just to do it for free for what it is seems. I mean, you have to pay the 1 energy, right? That's something you have to do, but that's nothing in blue either. It's just very good. So I don't know. I think this card's a little bit overtuned. Let me know what you guys think about it. But just the fact like blue's good for it. The fact again it's Aandroidd, so Aandroidd 21 gets some synergy with it. The fact that Gamma gets synergy with it too. Like, it's very searchable from that. It's just disgusting in a lot of ways. So next up, Piccolo the Infiltrator. A pretty new card, not the newest card, but this is just a good card. This is just a solid card. I know not all blue decks use it, but man, for two, you get to play this card. It's a 20k dual attack that either draws you a card off. Actually, technically, it either draws you 2 cards or gets you barrier, right? Like, and it has deflect. Like, this is a stupid card. It is stupidly good, and you can play it for 2. I would play this for 3 in a lot of decks. A lot of decks would play this for 3, but you're playing it for 2 in a blue leader, which also gets the energy back anyways. So, like, this is technically like for 1 energy, right? Even if it's limit 1, just the fact that you can do this, and then like also has the activate main for 1 to just discard it to play the pan if you need to. Like all of these effects are good. Like there's no downsides to playing this card. It's just incredibly good. I think this card needs to be limited to 1. Honestly, that's my take on this card. I think this is just something that generates way too much value for what it is, and it's just obnoxious. Like 20k dual attack is so good. Like the fact that this card can almost get rid of a Majin Buu by itself for 2 energy should tell you a lot about how good this card is. So I don't know. I don't know if I would change it. Like if it was a 15k, it'd probably make a lot more sense for it. But 20k is just way too much for what it does. Like playing for 2 to be a 20k dual attack is already just above the curve of a lot of cards that exist right now. And then it has all the other bonus things too. So I don't know. I think this is just a good card that they made because they wanted to probably sell a little bit of BT19. And guess what? It probably worked a little bit. But man, I do not think this card should exist at 4. It's just too generically good for what it does. Dirty Burst. I just mentioned this card because honestly, like you'll probably notice there's a lot of floodgates on this one, and that's kind of what I'm leaning to. If you guys think that's off or wrong, please let me know. This is just obviously a discussion video, and none of this is again, none of these I'm really championing for hard. Maybe Piccolo and Infiltrator and Aandroidd 17. I really do not like playing against those cards right now. They are so good, but Dirty Burst is okay. I don't know if they want to get rid of Floodgates. The fact that for 2 being able to stop 7 or more seems pretty rough. They kind of did the same thing with like Violent Rays. They made it so like Violent Rays is just unplayable, right? Because they didn't like that card of the Floodgate for what it is. So, and the fact that you can just use this to negate an attack, and if your opponent's not going to do anything, you can just use this to cycle a card for 2, which again, 2 blue energy and blue is not really too big of a commitment. So I don't know if they'd want to change this or just limit to 1 or something. I could see like this looks like a card that would be pretty suited to be limited to 1. Honestly, I think a lot of decks would just run it for 1. If they have the Dirty Burst, they go for it. But I don't think. I mean, a lot of decks are running it for 2 or 3. I don't know. I might be off base for this one, even putting on this list. But it just seems like an unfair floodgate in blue a lot of the time. So I did want to kind of mention it. It's probably fine. Those are all the blue cards. We do have a couple yellow cards because guess what? Yellow did win Worlds. So that is official. But yellow's been based on a lot of the events that I've covered and looked at over the last couple months. It's just been like there, and it's more of like if you are a very strong player who can adapt and predict the meta very well, you're able to get a lot of success for it. But it's something I feel like you grind for and not something that anyone can just pick up. And I think it's a color that really rewards a lot of forethought and just a lot of sequencing, because it's a lot like blue, except for you have like half as much energy all the time. So you have to actually choose what your extensions are, what your defensive, and what you're playing against and what you're playing around, and then like ignoring as well. So I think there is a lot to say about that. But I did get a couple cards. They are also like negates and floodgates, and the first is Release from Evil. This card's really good. This card's just been creepingly very good. When it first came out, no one liked it. No one really played it that much. It didn't seem to do much, but because guess what? It didn't negate the attack. That seems so bad. But man, being able to shut off the effects of a lot of cards is pretty strong, especially against stuff like Gamma and stuff. So I could potentially see this limited to 1. I'm not championing for it at all, but in general, cards that cost 0 normally get the boot in one way or the other. And this is one that costs 0 if you have a unison out, and they also seem to be like not supporting unisons as much as they used to. So a card like this that does support unisons might be on their hit list. So I don't know. There's also Mecha Frieza. This card's been good since release. It's been almost a staple in every yellow deck since release, which I don't know if that makes it too good, but it just makes it on my radar, right? If you are putting extra, like if you were needing to find more extra cards to put in your deck just to play this card at better capacity, any deck, any yellow deck, then you're probably getting into a spot where the card is maybe a little bit too good. If anything, I would just have it have a limit 1 maybe to its effect, to its auto. There are ways to play around it. I don't think this card it's a really obnoxious card to play around a lot of the time, because like you can discard cards and stuff, but like having cards to tap with it are usually a little bit rough. And this card can just kind of end a turn, and you play it for it's a 15k for 1. You can run 4 copies of it. It's Frieza's Army if you're running Golden Frieza. and there's just like not a lot of bad things about this card. It's just great for what it is, and I think it's fine. I think it's fine-ish, but like if I was to say what's probably one of the most powerful yellow cards verbatim in the game right now, it's probably still Mecha Frieza, and it's been like that for over a year. It's been out for for a while. And I think that's just like one of the cards you have to be aware of and do that. So anyways, I think it's okay-ish. And again, if I was to champion around, that's it. We're done with the video. But if I was a champion against any cards on the cards that I put aside, Aandroidd 17 and Piccolo the Infiltrator are the ones that kind of like are the most value based. Like they're just super overtuned for what they are. Everything else, nothing I'm really championing about. Crimson Warrior, I know it's a good leader, and I know a lot of people do not like playing against it right now, and it's hard to say if that will change with the new cards that come out or if the format will change or anything like that. But I think it's okay for what it's at. I don't think it's, I don't know. I also dislike seeing the same leader pop up in these deck lists. And I have to tell you, like in the last couple months, I've put in like probably close to 50 individual lists of these, and that they're quite chunky, and they have a lot of tech cards that they're hard to find on my deck builders. So that's something to consider, but I think it's okay. I'm not super championing for this card to get banned personally. I think it's but if there's a customer satisfaction issue, or if they like errata it again to like only blue Saiyans, I could see that be something. The only issue is that like, this is like been the meme about the card since it came out, is that, oh, why is this better than Soul Striker? And if we do ban this card, I think people will go to Soul Striker, and it's still going to be more or less as powerful as this card was, because of just how kind of tuned blue is to do well right now. Especially like Piccolo the Infiltrator just kind of turns on a lot of that. So I think yellow is good, but I don't think it needs any changes. It's just been a consistently obnoxious color for the last year, and it's probably never ever going to change like that. So anyways, that is my quick little video going over my thoughts for any potential balance changes for the Dragon Ball Super card game. Let me know your thoughts, what you guys think I'm on okay with, any cards that I may have missed that might need to be hit, and just kind of anything else. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll catch you all next time.